සෙල් නම් භාගයයි මාසයකට වඩා රිදි සෝතයි.
Tonight, gloves off. The Archbishop of Colombo takes aim at the government for Easter probe in action.
We are left with no other option but to carry on with our campaigns against the present government for its neglect of duty on this matter, because I was given a promise by the President.
Critically dangerous. The MV Express Pearl runs aground and begins to sink shortly after towing began, raising oil spill fears. More time needed. The planned lifting of restrictions on Monday shelved as new extension comes into play.
The essential services will be continued as of now, the way that we are continuing with the mobile type of food distribution or selling in every area in the country.
Welcome extension. The central bank instructs banks to extend relief facilities to borrowers until August. All this and much more coming up on this Wednesday, the 2nd of June 2021.
හඳුන්වා දෙන නව ක්‍රියා ෂැම්පූ තුන්ගුණයක් ක්‍රියාකාරී ඇන්ටි ඩෑන්ඩ්‍රෆ් තාක්ෂණයෙන් ඉසේ සම පෝෂණය කර ඉසුරු ඉවත් කරමින් නැවත ඇතිවීම වළකයි. නව ක්‍රියා ෂැම්පූ.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando in your top stories for tonight. The Archbishop of Colombo held a media briefing today where the subject of progress on the Easter attack investigations took center stage. His Eminence the Cardinal targeted the government, the Criminal Investigation Department and the Inspector General of Police for what he called utter inaction to credibly pursue justice for the dead and the maimed.
The Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, today took aim at feet-dragging on the Easter attack investigations and conspiracy claims by the former Attorney General.
The former Attorney General made a statement to say that there was a grand conspiracy, but he never specified what that grand conspiracy was. So there are certain elements in this Easter Sunday attack which have not been investigated thoroughly. There are some aspects of the extremist movements in Sri Lanka. There are some insinuations coming that some politicians have been involved in this plot. Then there are some statements that have been made in the commission which were not seriously investigated. There was this case of this should have been investigated, but it has not been investigated. Similarly, there is that story of the role played by Sarah Jasmine. We don't know where she is. Earlier, the investigations into the body parts found in Batticaloa after the explosions, they said that Sarah Jasmine's DNA was not found there. So where is she? Now they are trying to claim they have dug back all those body parts in order to somehow prove that she was among the dead.
His Eminence the Cardinal then called out both the Criminal Investigation Department and the Inspector General of Police for practicing politics and not policing.
I went to courts to ask for a writ of mandamus in order to get the swords investigated. The minister or the IGP informed the courts that they have appointed 2 CID teams, but we don't even know what has happened to the CID teams because the CID teams are working according to political agendas. Therefore, we don't have trust in those CID teams also. We don't have trust in the IGP also because there are certain he has not done anything on those matters.
The Archbishop also accused the government of ignoring the recommendations of the Presidential Commission in its report and not pursuing prosecutions against all the individuals named.
The Attorney General should have prosecuted the former president and some of the leading officers in the police responsible that time who could have prevented this bloodbath, but who didn't do anything, who ignored it, but no investigation has happened. No accusations have been brought forward to the courts, which is the recommendation of the Commission. And this famous 6-member committee of ministers, this is tomfoolery tomfoolery by the president to try to choose against whom action should be taken and against whom action should not be taken. Therefore, there are two laws in the country. One law for those powerful figures and one law for the others. So all this is a very non-transparent attitude that is going on in the country, and we are very sad about the present situation. We are left with no other option but to carry on with our campaigns against the present government for its neglect of duty on this matter, because I was given a promise by the president that he will give top priority to this security issue, but he has not done that. We are not satisfied about what has happened. And
Following this, the Cardinal then stated that the Catholic Church has been left with no option but to look to its own devices in seeking justice.
we will have to go to the international fora in order to have a thorough investigation into this famous grand conspiracy. We want to know what that grand conspiracy is. As you know, the Catholic Church is an international body, so we have our connections all over. So it is possible for us to do something about it through our network of connections with the other countries, and also we are able to approach some of the United Nations organizations directly in order to find solace for our people. Because 269 people, men, women and children who had nothing to do with Islam or Islamic extremism, we never had anything against the Muslims. In fact, we protected all the Muslims after the attacks from any attacks against them. We will continue to do that because we respect the Muslims very much. But it's not against the Muslims, it is against extremism.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම.
The stern of the Singapore-registered cargo vessel MV Express Pearl that caught fire in Sri Lankan waters has run aground on seabed today while being towed to deeper waters. The fire-ravaged ship is over 50% submerged at the moment, with fears rising over a possible oil spill. On the 20th of last month, a fire broke out on board container carrier MV Express Pearl, 9.5 nautical miles outside the Colombo port. However, in a very short time, what was initially thought of as a minor emergency turned into a nightmare as heavy cyclonic winds fanned the flames, causing an explosion of the vessel's cargo containers. In total, firefighting crews from Sri Lanka and abroad endured a 10-day battle to bring the blaze under control, but by then the damage was far too great. To make things worse, investigations carried out on the ship's structure yesterday have revealed a much larger cause for concern. A gaping hole has been spotted in the ship's stern that has taken on water, left it in danger of sinking. With that, a decision was taken to tow the stricken vessel out to deep water in an attempt to limit as much environmental impact as possible before the inevitable happens.
නව ගිලන තත්වයට පත් වෙනවායි කියලා මේ නවතම තත්වය යම් විදියකින් එහෙම නව ගිලන තත්වයක් ඇති වුණොත් දැන් මේ වගේම පරිසර හානියක් වුණා වගේ තෙල් ටික ගියොත් ලොකු පරිසර හානියක් සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි සර්ගේ උපදේශ අනුව අද අපි තීන්දුවක් ගන්න වෙනවා මේ නව ගැඹුරු මූදට අරගෙන යනවාද කියන.
පොලිටිකල් ඉෂුව එකක් නෑ මේ පොලිටික්ස් ගාව ගන්න එපා මේක. මොකද්ද අපිට තියෙන ඩැමේජ් එක ඒක නැති කරගන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒක එක්ස්පර්ට්ස්ලා ඉන්නෝනේ මේකේ. දැන් ඒ එක්ස්පර්ට්ස්ලා කවුද? ඒ සංවිධාන වලින් වහාම කියන්න ඕන මෙන්න මේක තමයි රෝඩ් මැප් එක. මේක තමයි විය යුත්තේ කියලා. ඒක තමයි අපිට එතකොට ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒකට ඩිසිෂන් එක දෙන්න ඕන රෙස්පොන්සිබල් ආයතන කීපයක් තියෙනවනේ. ඒ ආයතන වලින් මනටම ඩිසයිඩ් කරන්න මේකට කල යුත්තේ මොකක්ද කියන එක.
However, just a half kilometer of towing, the already listing stern of the ship ran aground on the 22-meter deep seabed. Following this, the ship gradually began sinking and currently remains with 50% of its structure underwater. Despite this, diving teams have not detected any oil spillage from the vessel so far. In the face of such a threat, the government has also slapped a fisheries ban in the seas stretching from Panadura to Kochikade. Meanwhile, more debris and cargo from the vessel continues to scour the beaches. According to the Urban Development Authority, a total of 584 tons of plastic noodles have been removed from the Uswatakeyawa to Sarakua stretch. Meanwhile, patches suspected of being fuel was observed in the Sarakua area today. Deputy Director General of Education and Research at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, once again assured that the country's health sector possesses ample stocks of oxygen to deal with any increase in case numbers. Dr. Herath added that plans have been put in place to ensure no supply issues crop up in the future.
Despite overwhelming odds, Sri Lanka's health sector has been able to bear the brunt of the third wave of COVID-19 as daily cases remain at the 2000 level. Authorities say that what will be key to effective healthcare management is a steady and constant supply of oxygen to deal with any increase in the number of patients experiencing breathing difficulties. With public concerns on the issue on the rise, health authorities continue to offer reassurances that plans against such an eventuality have already been put in place.
අපිට ලැබිලා තියෙන දත්ත අනුව මීට පෙර කාලවලට සාපේක්ෂව මෙහි අවශ්‍යතාවය වැඩි බව තේරුණ නිසාම ඒ අවශ්‍ය කරන ඔක්සිජන් ලබා දීමේ කටයුත්ත තීව්‍ර කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අවශ්‍ය කරන සෑම ස්ථානයකටම විවිධ ආකාරයෙන් අපි ඒ ඔක්සිජන් ලබා දෙනවා. ඒ සියල්ල වැඩි කිරීමට කරගෙන යනවා. මේ මොහොත වෙන විට ඔක්සිජන් සැපයීමේ අඩුවක් හෝ රෝගීන්ට ඔක්සිජන් ලබා දීමට නොහැකියාවක් මතුවෙලා නැහැ. ඒ සියල්ලට අවශ්‍ය කරන අමතර තොග සෞඛ්‍ය
In the meantime, the Government Medical Officers Association claimed yesterday that 8,000 active COVID-19 cases still remain outside official treatment programs. Responding to the claim, Deputy Director General of Education and Research Dr. Hemantha Herath defended the ministry's simulation data but didn't completely rule out the possibility.
සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ වාගේ පාලන ක්‍රියාවලියක් කරනකොට විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් ඉන්නවා රෝග ලක්ෂණ රහිතව. ඒ නිසා ඔය කියන ආකාරයට අපිට හොයාගන්න බැරි රෝගී තිබීම සාධාරණයි ස්වාභාවික. අපිට ඔය කියන එස්තමේන්තුගත සංඛ්‍යාව අපිට මේ දක්වා කරලා තියෙන පුරෝකතන වලින් සහ ඒ කරන ලද අපි මේකට සිමියුලේෂන්ස් මේක මේ විදිහට උනොත් කොහොමද වෙන්නේ මේ විදිහට වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා පිටින් පිට අධ්‍යයනය කරනවා. එම සංඛ්‍යා ඒ ආකාරයටම එක එක ආකාරයට සංඛ්‍යා ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. අපිට ඒ තත්වයට ඒ තරමට විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් ඉන්නවාද කියන එක නම් සැකසහිතයි. නමුත් ඒක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් සාධාරණයි. ඒ වගේ දෙයක් වෙන්න බැරිකමක් නැහැ.
Meanwhile, the total number of COVID-19 infections detected across the island yesterday was 2,877, comprising of 32 foreign arrivals and 2,845 district infections. Both Gampaha and Colombo recorded infections above the 600 mark of 654 and 646 respectively. In addition, 148 infections were reported from Jaffna, 121 from Batiklo, 114 from Kandy, 99 from Ampara, 95 from Nuwara Eliya, 93 from Gaul, 76 from Kudanagala, and 75 from Puttalam. The remaining 14 districts accounted for 443 infections. Meanwhile, 43 COVID-related deaths were confirmed yesterday, bringing the total so far to 1,527. It was also confirmed that 42 of the deaths occurred between the 20th and the 31st of May, while the other occurred yesterday. In the meantime, with the confirmation of 3,306 new cases so far today, the total number of COVID-19 patients under treatment in the country increased to 30,306. Further, total recoveries increased to 160,714 after 1,504 more patients were discharged during the day. In other developments, the Ministry of Health accepted a consignment of surgical masks donated by the German government. The consignment of 924,000 masks was jointly handed over to Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena by the head of Press and Culture of the German Embassy, Claudia Tietze, and WHO Public Health Administrator for Sri Lanka, Dr. Olivia Nieveras.
Travel restrictions that were supposed to be relaxed on the 7th of June were extended today until the 14th of this month. Following the announcement, Chief of the National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavendra Silva added that all mobile services for the provision of essential food items will continue until the 14th. Chief of the National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19, General Shavendra Silva, announced today that travel restrictions will be extended until 4 a.m. on the 14th of June.
The essential services will be continued as of now, the way that we are continuing now. Already, His Excellency the President has given directions for all the ministers who are involved in this area, and also the GAs and their staff been already informed to continue with the mobile type of food distribution or selling in every area in the country. So therefore, this will continue until the 14th. And we believe that certain areas that are distributing the wholesale will be opened, and that will be notified in time to come. The dates that will be open, most likely around 6th and 7th, they will distribute for these mobile sellers.
Meanwhile, with a significant rise in vehicles entering Colombo reported in the past few days, the police have introduced a new system to keep track of daily numbers. Accordingly, a sticker was posted on vehicles that were inspected at 56 checkpoints leading into Colombo. In the meantime, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohan offered the daily rundown of arrests and of quarantine violators.
Yesterday, 1,038 suspects have been arrested in connection with the offences of quarantine rules and regulations. The highest number of suspects have been arrested by Matale police. The number is 156. Also, Puliapitiya police has arrested 130 and Matara police has arrested 79 suspects. In addition to that, 7 persons have been arrested in drone operations conducted in Kolpiti, Maharagama and Mulleriyawa areas.
Meanwhile, the 5,000 rupee allowance to Samurdhi beneficiaries, low-income earners and those who lost their income as a result of COVID-19 were distributed today. State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Professor Janna Jayasumana, today announced that consignments of 2 million Sinopharm vaccines will arrive in the island next week. The government has meanwhile extended its vaccination drive to 12 more districts with people above the age of 60, expectant mothers and public sector employees to be given priority. Sri Lanka's vaccination program is currently in full swing, with over 2 million vaccines expected to touch down in the island next week. To date, over 1.7 million people have received at least one dose of a vaccine. According to the State Minister for Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, one of the 2 consignments of vaccines is expected to arrive on the 6th and the other on the 9th.
අප සයිනෝෆාර්ම් ආයතනයත් එක්ක ගිවිසුම් ගත වෙලා තියෙනවා. සමස්ත හැටියට මාත්‍රා මිලියන 13ක් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා පළවෙනි මිලියනය චීනය අපට දෙනුම් දීලා තියෙන ඔය නිෂ්පාදන සමාගම ජූනි මාසේ 6 වෙනිදා නිදහස් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒ වගේම ඊළඟ මිලියනය ජූනි මාසේ 9 වෙනිදා නිදහස් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අපිට දැනුම් දීලා තියෙනවා.
චීන රජයෙන් අපිට මාර්තු මාසේ මුල ලක්ෂ 5ක් ආධාර හැටියට ලැබුණා. මැයි මාසේ ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයේ අනුමැතිය දෙනකම් මේක පාවිච්චි කරන්න බැරි වුණා. ලංකාවට මේ එන්නත ගෙනල්ලා ගබඩාවේ තියෙන කාලය තුලදී මේක ගැන මැව්වේ මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට මේ පිළිබඳ මැව්වේ ඉතාම භයානක පින්තූරයක්. අපි අවුරුද්දට කලින් මිලියනයක් ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සු එන්නත් කරා නම් අද මේ තියෙන ව්‍යසනය අපේ ලංකාවේ තියෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Further, the State Minister also cleared out the current confusion regarding the wording of an official seal that was seen on the vaccine consent forms given out.
ස්පුට්නික් එන්නත අපිට මාත්‍රා 50000ක් ගිය සතිය ලැබුණා. එතකොට එහි දෙවනි මාත්‍රාව ලැබෙන දිනය පිළිබඳ ඒ නිෂ්පාදන සමාගම අපිට තහවුරු කිරීමක් කරේ නැහැ මේ වුණා. එතකොට අපිට තීරණය කරන්න සිද්ධ වුණා මේ 50000 අපි තියාගෙන ඉන්නවද ගහන්නේ නැතුව දෙවනි මාත්‍රාව එනකන්. එතකොට ඒ අනුව අප විද්වත් කමිටුවක් පත් කරා මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් තීරණයක් දෙන්න කියලා. ඔවුන් තමයි නිර්දේශ කරේ මේ 50000 අපි ලබා දිය යුතුයි කියලා. ඒ වගේම ඉදිරියේදී මේ නිෂ්පාදන සමාගම පර්යේෂකයෝ කීවොත් හදිසියවත් එකක් විතරක් ඇති කියලා. ඒකට අපි යම්කිසි සූදානමක් තියෙනවා. ඔවුන්ගේ 4 වෙනි නිර්දේශය තමයි vaccine recipient should be informed that only a single dose of vaccine will be administered. It is recommended written informed consent is obtained from the vaccine recipient in this regard. එතකොට මේ එන්නත මහනුවර ප්‍රදේශයේ ලබා දීමට ඒ වෙනකොටත් මුද්‍රණය කරලා මේ පත්‍රිකා ටික යවලා ඉවරයි. ඒ පත්‍රිකාවේ තිබුණ නැහැ මේ එක එන්නතක් පමණක් ලබා ගැනීමටත් මගේ කැමැත්ත තියෙනවා කියන. එතකොට ඒක නිසා තමයි හදිසිය රබර් සීල් එකක් කපලා ඒක ගහලා කැමැත්ත පළ කරන ෆෝම් එකට දීලා තිබුණේ.
Meanwhile, Dr. Gunasena added that a single dose of Sputnik V should provide at least 6 months of protection until the second arrives.
මේ වැක්සින් එකේ ප්‍රතිශක්තිය තනි වැක්සින් එකක් දුන්නත් ඒ එන ප්‍රතිශක්තිය 95% මාස 6ක් ඊටත් වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් කාලයක් මේ භයානක රෝග තත්ත්වයෙන් බේරා ගැනීම සඳහා උදව් වෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මේ ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානය දැන් කියන්නේ. මේක ගිය මාසේ කිව්වේ නැහැ.
Further, State Minister Professor Jayasumana also elaborated on the obstacles faced by the country's vaccination drive while expressing displeasure over vaccine hoarding by wealthier countries.
ඉන්දියාවේ තත්ත්වය දරුණු වෙනවත් එක්ක අප තීරණය කරා මේක නවත්තන්න ඕන කියලා. ඒ වෙනකොට 9,25,000ක ප්‍රමාණයක් අප දීලා තිබුණා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි දිගින් දිගටම ඒ නිෂ්පාදන ආයතනයෙන් ඉල්ලීම් කරා අපේ රටේ ජනතාවට අවශ්‍ය මේ ඉන්නත් ප්‍රමාණය ඉතිරි ප්‍රමාණය දෙවනි මාත්‍රාව සඳහාවත් ලබා දෙන්න කියන කාරණා. හැබැයි ඉන්දියාවේ පැනනමුණ තත්ත්වය නිසා වුන් තීරණය කරා ඉන්දියාවෙන් පිටතට AstraZeneca එන්නත් විදේශයන්ට ලබා දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. උන්ගේ රටට ප්‍රමුඛ ස්ථානෙ ලබා දෙන්න ඕන නිසා. එතකොට අපිට තිබුණු අනිත් අවස්ථාව තමයි AstraZeneca මේ එන්නතම හදන තවත් ආයතන කිහිපයක් තියෙනවා. මහා බ්‍රිතාන්‍යයේ ඒ වගේම දකුණු කොරියාවේ මේ හැම ආයතනයකටම අපි නිල වශයෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරා අපිට මේ එන්නත් ප්‍රමාණය ලබා දෙන්න කියලා. හැබැයි ඒ සඳහා මේ වනතෙක් අපිට සුබවාදී ප්‍රතිචාරයක් ලැබිලා නැහැ. ඒ වගේම තමයි ඊළඟ තියෙන කාරණය තමයි මේ වෙනකොට එන්නත් ලබාගෙන තියෙන යම් අතිරික්තයක් තියෙන රටවල් තියෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ සහ යුරෝපයේ ඇතැම් රටවල් තමන්ගේ ජනගහනයට අවශ්‍ය එන්නත් ප්‍රමාණයට වඩා 5 ගුණයක් එන්නත් තමන් රට තුළ තියාගෙන ඉන්නවා. ඒක අවාසනාවන්ත තත්ත්වයක්. මොකද මේකේ එන්නත් දේශපාලනයක් තියෙනවා ලෝකේ. උන් ඒකේ මුදල් තියෙන බලගතු දේශපාලනික වශයෙන් බලගතු රටවල් ඒ එන්නත් තමන් ළඟ තියාගෙන ඉන්නවා. ඒවා නිදහස් කරන්නේ නැහැ ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයට හෝ අනෙකුත් රටවල් වලට.
He then also touched on progress in discussions with foreign nations to procure vaccines.
අපි මේ හැම රටකටම අපේ රාජතාන්ත්‍රික නිලධාරීන් මගින් අපි තානාපතිවරු මගින් ඉල්ලීමක් කරා අපිට මේ ප්‍රමාණය ලබා දෙන්න කියලා. ඇතම් සාකච්ඡා යම් මට්ටමකට ඉදිරියට යනවා.
The State Minister also shed some light on vaccine black markets, highlighting that quality of the vaccines will not be compromised at any cost.
තවත් පාර්ශව කිහිපයක් ඉදිරිපත් වුණා. පෞද්ගලික සමාගම් සතුව තියෙනවා එන්නත් ගේන්න පුළුවන් කියලා ඉදිරිපත් වුණා. අපි ඒකටත් අවස්ථාව දුන්නා. අපි කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය දැනුවත් කරලා රාජ්‍ය ඖෂධ නීතික සංස්ථාව හරහා අපිට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සහතිකයක් තියෙන්න ඕන, තහවුරු කිරීමක් තියෙන්න ඕන මේ දෙන එන්නත් මව් සමාගමේ නිෂ්පාදනම කියලා. ඒ වගේම මේ ශීතකරණ දාමය ඒ ආකාරයටම ආරක්ෂා කරපු සාධාරණ සැකයකින් තොරව මේ එන්නත් වල ප්‍රමිතිය පිළිබඳ අපිට තහවුරු කිරීමක් කරන්න. එතකොට එහෙම කියලා අපි යම් යම් ලියකියවිලි ඉල්ලුවම ඇතම් සමාගම් එතනින් එහාට කටයුතු කරේ නැහැ. සමහර සමාගම් ගැන හොයලා බැලුවම ඒගොල්ලෝ ප්ලයිවුඩ් තුනී ලෑලි වෙළඳාම් කරන අය. තව සමහර අය කන්ටේනර් බිස්නස් කරන අය. සමහර අය නැව් විවිධාකාරයේ ප්‍රවාහන පහසුකම් සපයන අය. ලෝකයේ තුල අද බ්ලැක් මාකට් එකක් තියෙනවා එන්නත් සඳහා. එතකොට අපිට රජයක් හැටියට බෑ මෙන්න මෙතන එන්නත් තියෙනවා. මේ ගානට දෙන්නම් කිව්වම දෙන්න කියලා අරන් ඇවිල්ලා ගහන්න බෑ. අපිට අපේ රටේ ජනතාව ගැන වගකීමක් තියෙනවා. ඒ වගකීම අපි ඉස්සේ සිද්ධ කරන්න ඕනේ.
Meanwhile, vaccinations have been extended to 12 more districts starting from the 7th of this month. Thereby, the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine will be administered to residents of the districts of Matale, Nuwara, Kegol, Trincomalee, Hambantota, Badulla, Anuradhapura, Putlam, Ampara, Batiklo and Monaragala, as well as in Polonnaruwa. Further, on instructions by the President, people above the age of 60, expectant mothers and public sector employees will be given priority. A stock of arms and ammunition had reportedly fallen into the sea during a ship-to-ship transfer onto a vessel anchored off the coast of Galle. Navy spokesperson Captain Indika De Silva revealed that 36 weapons and a stock of ammunition ended up in the sea. However, 22 have been recovered so far. He also added that the Navy has launched a search operation to recover the remaining lost weapons.
There were 36 weapons with other accessories, and the whole lot, when they were taking on board, has fallen into sea due to rough sea. Out of all the weapons that have fallen into sea, they have recovered 22 weapons and the stock of ammunition. And once they lodge a complaint, that ship has left Sri Lanka with the stock they have recovered. And according to the list forwarded by the company, 14 semi-automatic rifles, 2,414 ammunition in 56 magazines, 6 binoculars, 29 body armors and helmets, 21 radio sets, 21 radio chargers and 6 platforms. Actually, this was happened on board a local service boat provided by the registered under the Galle port. And whole process was supervised by the Sri Lanka Navy as the private security marshal businesses supervised from the point of Sri Lanka Navy disembarking from ship and to the armory in the Navy, close to Navy base, and again back to the ship. This loop is being monitored by the Navy, but the responsibility and the process is being done by the registered local agents in the country.
Meanwhile, the Navy spokesperson explained the process of how weapon transfers take place at sea.
All the merchant ships are authorized to embark armed sentries. They are called sea marshals in between Red Sea and the close to Sri Lankan stretch because of the Somali pirate threat. So these sea marshals, when they carry weapons and when they disembark from the ships in Gaul, they cannot take the weapon with them. They have to hand it over to Sri Lanka Navy and they are residing in some other hotels under the quarantine regulation. And the weapons are with the Sri Lanka Navy. Once they want to go back, then another tour of duty, we will issue them the weapon and they will take them on board a harbour craft which is owned by a local service agent, and they take it to the ship at off port limit in the Gaul harbour.
In business news, licensed commercial banks and licensed specialized banks have been instructed to continue to provide borrowers with relief measures in the face of COVID-19 related economic pressure. Banks have been asked to not decline loans applications based on a negative crib record.
The central bank has requested licensed commercial banks and licensed specialized banks to provide concessions to borrowers affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. The decision has been taken in consideration of current difficulties faced by borrowers of licensed banks, the CBSL said in a statement. This includes concessions granted for performing credit facilities that are in the performing category as at the 15th of May 2021 to defer recovery of capital, interest or both on a case-by-case basis during the period up to 31st August, considering the financial difficulties of the eligible borrowers. Further, in the case of rupee facilities, licensed banks may charge an interest rate not exceeding 6.18% per annum only on the deferred amount and for the deferred period. In the case of foreign currency loans, licensed banks are allowed to charge a concessionary interest rate considering prevailing low interest rates. Alternatively, licensed banks can also restructure existing credit facilities over a longer period, considering the repayment capacity of the borrower and an acceptable revival plan submitted by them. Further, rescheduling of credit facilities in the non-performing category as at the 15th of May has also been permitted, considering the repayment capacity and an acceptable revival plan. Further, all recovery actions are to be suspended until the 31st of August against credit facilities that are classified as non-performing on or after the 1st of April 2020. In addition, the validity period of checks valued less than 500,000 has been extended up to 30th June 2021. Short-term revolving facilities too have been extended during the period up to the 31st of August. Meanwhile, charges for check returns and late payments for credit cards during the period up to 30th of June has been suspended for those who are demonstrably for those affected. Also, lenders have been instructed not to decline loan applications from eligible borrowers under this scheme solely based on an adverse crib record. Eligible borrowers who wish to apply for the concessionary scheme are required to make a request to the respective licensed bank on or before the 21st of June in writing or through electronic means.
Diversified financial conglomerate, the LOLC Group posted a record-breaking performance for the financial year ending 31st March 2021, achieving unprecedented bottom-line results of 57 billion rupees in profit before tax PBT and a profit after tax of 53 billion rupees, a first for any corporate in the country. The company's performance was underpinned by 28 billion rupees being recorded as profits attributed to the equity holders of the parent company. The group results denote an impressive earnings per share of 59 rupees and a cent compared with 22 rupees and 93 cents recorded in the previous year. Further, the total comprehensive income recorded was 81 billion rupees, out of which 37 billion rupees is attributable to the equity holders of the parent company. Sri Lankan shares snapped a 5-session winning streak today as travel restrictions to curb rising cases of of the novel coronavirus were extended. Further, the CSE All-Share Price Index closed 0.19% lower at 7,436.55, while the S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks dropped 0.05% or 1.39 points to close at 3,000.91. Here's Dimantha Matthew with a more detailed report on how the market traded today.
Today we saw a reversal in the market after about 5 days of gains. The ASPI declined by around 14 points as the index dipped to 7,436 points. So we saw a bit of profit taking in the market by the investors after the continuous gains that we saw over the last 5 days. So overall, the dip was mainly coming in the capital goods sector, which affected the index. In addition to that, where we saw strong earnings, the materials sector in particular continued its gains with some key stocks continuing to gain in value. Today the turnover level was around 2 billion rupees, so continuing to be onto the high side, and even the retail activity also continued to be high around the 24,000 mark, but slightly lower than the past couple of days. So we saw a higher level of high net worth and institutional activity today, with most of these investors bargain hunting with some of the declined stocks during the day.
The rupee remained unchanged at 202.88 cents against the US dollar today after ending at the same level yesterday. Now let's have a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. In international news, case numbers in the United States have passed the 33 million mark, along with the death toll almost hitting 600,000 as of yesterday's data. Meanwhile, India's daily increase in confirmed cases has dropped significantly, with the growth rate down by nearly 70%.
The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the United States surpassed 33.28 million yesterday, with the death toll exceeding 595,000, according to the Center for Systems Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. The country's case count had risen to 33,286,129, with the death toll reaching 595,205 by yesterday, showed the CSSE tally. The United States still leads the world in the numbers of both confirmed COVID-19 cases and deaths. Over 296.1 million COVID-19 vaccine doses had been administered across the United States by Monday, said the tally. Meanwhile, India's COVID-19 tally rose to 28,307,832 today, with 132,788 new cases reported in the past 24 hours, said the Federal Health Ministry. Compared with the record of 414,188 new confirmed cases in a single day reported on May 7th, India's daily increase in confirmed cases has dropped significantly, with the growth rate down by nearly 70%. Besides, as many as 3,207 deaths since last morning took the overall death toll to 335,102. There are still 1,793,645 active cases in the country, a decrease of 101,875 in the past 24 hours. The number of daily active cases has been on the decline over the past few days after a continuous surge since mid-April. A total of 26,179,085 people have been cured and discharged from hospitals so far across the country, showed the latest data from the Federal Health Ministry. In addition, the Chinese mainland reported 24 new confirmed COVID-19 cases yesterday, including 10 locally transmitted ones in Guangdong province and 14 imported ones, the National Health Commission said in its daily report today. Among the imported cases, 6 were reported in Shanghai, 3 each in Fujian and Guangdong, and 1 each in Sichuan and Yunnan, according to the Commission. No new suspected cases or new deaths related to COVID-19 were reported yesterday, it added. However, yesterday 15 COVID-19 patients on the Chinese mainland were discharged from hospital after recovery, and a total of 689 close contacts were discharged from medical observation. The number of severe cases remained the same as the previous day. A total of 6,077 imported cases have been reported on the mainland by the end of yesterday.
With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.